everybody, and welcome to Josiah is Right. So, I've been doing this series of opening unboxings of action figures lately, just because I've had stuff that's kind of built up. And with that, I have a few Masters of the Universe classics. Now, these were purchased over different times. The first one was actually purchased last year when they did sort of their Black Friday online sale where like most things were half off. I also got like a giant He-Man and stuff, but I'm not opening that one up yet. I may or may not. It looks so cool in the package, but I just want to keep that one. But this one is one I really wanted to open up. So, as you can see here, these lovely brown box, it is Blade. Now, I'll open up this part first. And as you can see, Blade here in the classics box. Blade, as a kid, my cousins had the figure, and at my grandma's, they had their He-Man figures, so I got to play with this one in the original version, but I never owned it, so I was excited whenever I was able to get it for half of whatever the original price was last year, plus free shipping, and I got a few other things. Like, I think it was if you spent so much, you got free shipping. But we're going to open this guy up, and he's going to join his friends on my shelf.
So first up, you have Blade. Now, as a kid, my cousins had a Blade action figure, and they had a lot of these. I personally love the Masters of the Universe movie. I really actually think it's a good movie. As you can see here, I hate opening these boxes. I try to do it without ripping them. I don't know if there's a secret to it, but even as a kid, I was bad at it, and I'm worse at it as an adult. So a lot of flipping this thing over, trying to figure out how to open it. But Mattel normally does a good job with their boxes. I really like what they did with... I have a video that's the unboxing of the Shockmaster action figure with their wrestling figures, and that one opened up really nicely, and I've had some other Mattel figures along those lines, but the Masters of the Universe, they open up like an 80s action figure where you have to risk dismembering the box, so I finally got it open, and there's Blade. Now, you have sort of a pirate kind of guy with swords. As a kid, I absolutely loved it. As an adult, I still love it. These action figures are just a little bit bulky for me, particularly for this one, because the movie character is much slimmer and more slender, but it's just the same body they use for all of these figures. It doesn't really change. You can see trying to cut this guy out to all these little pieces here. But again, as I said, the body is just kind of bulky for this particular character, but he looks really cool. There's a lot of great detail, and you can just see the chainmail looks really cool. I remember the original figure actually being really cool too. It was much more detailed than the early He-Man figures because it was, based on the movie, so they wanted to make it look more realistic. But it just had some kind of level to it. You can see the swords that he comes with here and the whip. The famous scene of him whipping He-Man in the movie. Great sequence. Awesome to include that sword. I would love to get a Dolph Lundgren He-Man figure so he could assault him with that. As I said, Blade was probably my favorite character from that movie. I know the movie kind of was controversial because it went down another road and created characters that weren't from the show and kind of changed characters that were. And other than Skeletor, those changes probably didn't work really well. But I feel like Blade is a great character that really was executed well and holds up well and is a great addition to sort of the He-Man lore. So here you can see him fully assembled with his chainmail and everything going on. Great action figure, great detail. Again, just a little bulk.
So that was Blade, and there's one more Masters of the Universe classic that I want to open up. And this one is a 30th anniversary Comic-Con exclusive. So the same year, G.I. Joe and these guys had their 30th anniversary, some really cool Comic-Con exclusives. Now this is Vykron, one of my all-time favorite action figures from Comic-Con, and I'm excited to finally open it. So I will give you a sort of preview of what you're then going to see in another minute here. But first things first, the gorgeous box, because part of why I didn't open this guy is it's exclusive to Comic-Con, of course. That always makes me hesitant. But this box, it just looks so great, and it displays the armors. And once he's on the shelf, it won't be displayed as well, but it'll be fun to sort of swap these armors out every now and again once he joins the other guys on the shelf. So we're going to open up Vykron and put him with Blade.
So Vykron. Vykron was a Comic-Con exclusive. So now, what is Vykron? Those of you who may not know. First of all, watch The Toys That Made Us on Netflix. You get a good insight into it, and actually, I learned a lot about it. I just knew a little bit about Vykron, and I learned a lot more about Vykron from that. So Vykron wasn't Vykron then. Vykron was He-Man himself. So He-Man was originally, as you see here, this character in 3 different incarnations. It was based on a figure that Mattel had in the 70s that I'd never heard of until the Mattel documentary, and it was Big Jim. And so one of the designers crafted He-Man out of 3 Big Jim figures. So they were probably, I think it was a 9-inch scale figure, so they were much larger. And he basically wanted to make a massive, bulky figure, and that's, of course, what He-Man was known for, is being massive and bulky. So he made 3 samples, as you'll see here. Now, the difference with this Vykron versus that Vykron which was actually He-Man, is Vykron here is one figure that you can sort of redecorate, dress different ways. As you can see, I struggled with the box here for a bit, but then I finally got it cleanly. I ripped it a tad right there, which always sucks, but pretty good. And so Vykron was one of three distinct figures, whereas this one, it's one figure body, and you kind of redecorate him and redress him with different costumes. And that was one of the big misunderstandings I had. I thought that that was the original idea, which it might have been, is to sort of have different outfits for He-Man, more doll-like, but more combat doll-oriented, whereas He-Man in the line that we know as Masters of the Universe is certainly much more built on just a variety of different figures, and quite a large variety, as you guys would know if you're interested enough to watch this and you're collectors yourselves. So here you can see the sort of first one there, which was actually basically a Boba Fett mask, which is sort of the futuristic one, and then there's the Barbarian version, which is much more the He-Man one, and then the third one you'll see is the sort of tank guy, which is actually, I thought was the stupidest one, but once I saw it, it might be my favorite. I really think that the Vykron, the sort of middle Viking version, the He-Man version, would have been my favorite, but the helmet is not my favorite. It's very Frank Frazetta, so it has that going for it, which is pretty cool as a fan of Frank Frazetta's art style, but I feel like, you know, as a He-Man figure, it doesn't work, because He-Man isn't Frank Frazetta. You know, it's a cartoon version of Frank Frazetta, sure, but Frank Frazetta is much more kinetic and powerful, and this is sort of in between both worlds. I guess it's closer to it being that it's a classics action figure and not original He-Man. Part of me would like maybe Super 7 will do it now that they have the license. They'll do a sort of version of this where it's a bit of a more of a tribute to the original Big Jim figures and that kind of thing. That'd be pretty cool to do that, to see that. So as you can see here, the helmet can pop off, as you'll see later, it can his entire head. So the helmet pops off so you can switch out between the different helmets there, between that one and the Boba Fett mask, which was actually originally basically a Boba Fett mask. And you can see the armor pops off on his arms, on his chest. Here you can see the sort of the Boba Fett flying version. The belt on him, I could not get it to clasp. That's why it looks a little bit loose. This is probably by far my least favorite outfit. You can see all the stuff behind him as I pulled it all off as I was getting ready to deassemble and reassemble him. So you can see here, once I get these pieces off, that chest piece there was a pain to get off, so I cut the video down. There's an edit here to take off the significant amount of time it took me to get that off. But basically, as you can see there, again, the head completely pops off so that you can put on that sort of tank head thing. But basically, you can see here the base body, which is your base body for all of these Masters lines. And you can see the way it articulates and things like that. And so it's nice to see the figure sort of naked in that way. And then you sort of redress it. And as I said, the tank version, surprisingly, has become my favorite. I didn't think it would. It just somehow works weirdly. I don't know that it would have then. I don't know why I like it now. Maybe it's just me being me, but it works. Again, here's one of those belt loops. This one, actually, I got to clasp relatively easy. It wasn't as hard as the other belt, which never successfully clasped, and I've since tried again, and I can't get it to clasp. But this guy snapped pretty easily, and as I said, you can put on then his wrist sort of bandolier pieces. There you go. He's much more G.I. Joe equipment, meets a Transformer, meets a He-Man figure, so it's a bit of a weird toy, but it really works, as you can see. I just think it's awesome. I just love this is my favorite of these three. So that is Vykron. I am really pleased with the action figure, and I'm glad I finally opened it up, and I'm happy to have it in my collection.
So that was Vykron, and that was Blade. So thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know what you guys are collecting, what you guys are opening up, what you guys refuse to open up. Do you open your toys? Do you keep in the package? I tend to judge it case by case because sometimes I don't want to open them, sometimes I do. Sometimes the packaging is just so cool, I want to leave it in that packaging. It's just, I enjoy it as it is. But I also like to display them on my shelves, as you can see behind me. And I look forward to updating these shelves with these action figures that I've been opening recently. So be sure to like, subscribe, and comment, and let me know what's going on in your action figure collecting life. Thank you guys.